You must be thinking, Thrive CRNA, how long did it take you to become a CRNA? Because yes, we know how fast to become a CRNA, the easy steps to become a CRNA, but for you, how long did it took you to become a CRNA? Well, in this video, I'm gonna give you all the nit and grit details, so definitely keep watching. My name is Christine and welcome to a new video. If it's your first time here and you wanna become a CRNA or grow your CRNA career, start now by subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss anything. I've been getting a lot of questions about how long does it take for me specifically to become a CRNA? Well, I'm going to talk all about that. So for me, it's a lot different than many people who decide to become a CRNA. So what does that mean? So to start from the beginning, when I initially started to go back for my bachelor's, I initially wanted to become biology. I was my major, then biochemistry, chemistry. I just didn't know for sure my first year, and that's normal, especially when you're going to college. You don't know. A lot of times you're kind of undecided in the beginning. So for me, I didn't really know I actually never knew there was such thing as a certified registered nurse anesthetist. At one point, I wanted to do biology. I wanted to do some research, and at one point, I wanted to become a doctor as well, even a veterinarian. So I constantly kept on changing on what I really wanted to do my first year. I was pretty much undecided. But my major was in the sciences because I love science. There's something about science that just intrigues me. So I knew that was definitely the area that I wanted to go into. Of course, my first year, I started realizing that I wanted to become something in the medical field. I love helping others. I love learning about different conditions, anatomy, physiology intrigued me, and I just loved learning about those type of things. So I knew that was definitely an area I wanted to go into. Then I said to myself, let me shadow a little bit, especially my first year. I decided I wanted to shadow. I shadowed a doctor, I shadowed nurses, a bunch of other areas. And I realized that, I really like nursing. And it kind of intrigued me, and also for me, I wanted to become something that I'm guaranteed to have a job when I graduate. Because yes, you can do many other areas, art, you can do social sciences. There's so many different areas you can go into, but I knew if I became a nurse, I'm gonna guarantee to get a job and have a job I'm always gonna be needed for the rest of my life. So I never have to worry about job stability. So then I realized that was gonna be for me. Also, the nice thing about nursing is that you can do so many different things and you can always switch very easily versus being a doctor, which is great. I love doctors. And yes, if you want to be a doctor, go for it. But for me, it's a lot harder to change into an area. Say, for example, you're in emergency medicine and you go through all the years of internship, your residency, could be up to 5 years, 6 years, depending on the area. And say, for example, I said to myself, you know what, I want to do something totally different. I want to become an OBGYN. I got to go through my whole residency, could be 4 to 6 years, depending on the residency, to do that. But if you are a doctor and you're deciding that you want to do that, you should do it, but it's going to be a lot longer road for you if you want to switch. So nursing is easier in a sense for me that I can switch. The nice thing now with nursing practice, and of course when you think about advancing yourself to become an advanced practice nurse, so you've been a nurse for a couple of years and you're still undecided on what area you want to go into, you can go back to school to become an advanced practice nurse and get a lot of autonomy that you might be wanting. So for me, that's why I decided, I'm going to do nursing. So what did I do? I went ahead and switched schools. So at first I was going to Ithaca College, upstate New York, and then I transitioned into University at Buffalo, upstate, even more western New York. Basically, it's about 45 minutes from Canada, and it's a very good SUNY school, and I knew that nursing was going to be for me. Now, when I applied to go to University at Buffalo, it took me about a semester before I actually got accepted into the nursing program. So that took a semester out of my time to go into nursing school. Yes, it happens, when you're trying to decide on things. But also I had to take prerequisite classes to actually get accepted. And when I got accepted, I got into the nursing program. So when I went to nursing school, I got my bachelor's degree in nursing, as well as I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. Because there was one point where I wanted to do, of course, medicine, and I loved biology and chemistry, and I knew I wanted to be a nurse. And then there was something about psychology that intrigued me. And I said to him, maybe I'll become a psych nurse practitioner, at first. So I did my training. I got my bachelor's in both degrees. And I said to myself, what do I really want to do? And, do I want to do that? But then when I was my last year, when before I graduated, I did a internship program at NYU Langone Medical Center in New York. And I was able to go and do an internship in the ICU. I was just like, let me just try that. That sounds like a pretty cool area to go into. I could have done psychology, but I wanted to do ICU nursing. So I just did it just to get some experience. And it was really fun, interesting. You naturally, being in the ICU, you actually deal with psychological conditions. You also deal with a lot of medications, that affects, your mindset. Of course, patients naturally have, you have to deal with psychological conditions, and also learning how to speak with patients and families. And so I actually got that experience being in the ICU as a student. So I said to myself, that sounds like a really cool area. So that was definitely one of the things at the top of my list: psychology and ICU nursing. So think about that now. So it took me about 4.5 years approximately, plus or minus, to become a registered nurse. Okay? So that was my path, because I didn't know for sure, what I wanted to do and all those type of things. Now, when I graduated nursing school, I had the opportunity to go right into the ICU. So I got to be a part of a nurse residency program. So in the ICU, which was awesome. So I went right into the ICU and started my ICU experience. So I did that. So now, how long was I an ICU nurse? It was approximately about 3 to 4 years. Why did I take so long to be in ICU before I decided CRNA school? Well, for me, now, yes, I went to become a psych nurse practitioner. Then I realized, I love the ICU setting. So I decided I wanted to be an acute care nurse practitioner. And I love the hospital setting. And I love critical care medicine. And I love the ICU. So I knew that was an area I wanted to stick to. I really didn't know much about CRNAs, about anesthesia practice. I really knew more about nurse practicing. And that was the area I was deciding on to. So 6 months after I was working in the ICU, I got accepted to go to NYU College of Nursing to be a part of the advanced practice nursing degree in specifically acute care. So my path was in that journey. So I worked full-time as an ICU nurse, and then I worked part-time to get my degree in acute care nurse practitioner, which is a path that I was happy with. Now, so therefore, of course, when you're doing a part-time in college, it takes a little bit longer. So it's about 3 to 4 years. I'm not 100% on the specific time because a lot of changes happened in my life. So I was actually about to be going to do my clinicals in acute care nurse practitioner. And then also now in the ICU, there's a transition where acute care nurse practitioners, I got to see the experience of acute care nurse practitioners on the floor. And just naturally, not that there was anything wrong or anything that was concerning that why did I want to become an acute care nurse practitioner, but it just didn't feel like a fit for me. My gut just said, And I always believe, you always listen to your gut. And it said, I don't think this is for me. So now, of course, in the ICU setting, you meet a lot of people from different areas, and a lot of the ICU nurses wanted to become a CRNA. And I'm like, I've heard of it then when I was in the ICU, but it was never something I was interested in because I never shadowed, and I knew I wanted to be an acute care nurse practitioner. That was actually my path. So I said to myself, you know what, let me just shadow, since I'm kind of iffy about becoming a nurse practitioner in the acute care environment. Let me shadow a little bit, see what are my other options, because the nice thing about nursing, tons of options which is available to you as a nurse. So I went ahead and spoke to the chief CRNA at NYU, went to the operating room, and I shadowed not just once, I shadowed a couple of times in the operating room. I shadowed, CRNAs. I got to see what they did, and I was like, wow, I like this. This actually fits my whole feeling about nursing and critical care medicine, being a part of pathophysiology, as well as learning about different comorbidities and how those comorbidities affect your anesthesia care. And then also airway management. I've always been intrigued about airway management on the ICU, so it was definitely something that I was interested in. I've always loved, learning about my patients on ventilators and, titrating that, waking them up, extubating them, maybe re-intubating them depending on what's going on. So it's always something I've been interested in. And also I love drips, and I love the titration of drips and more. I could continue to go on more. So then I was like, you know what? Maybe this is what I want to do. So I shadowed a couple times to make sure, because now, if I want to transition and leave acute care nurse practitioner, I want to continue to go to school, so I had to figure it out. So then I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to become a CRNA. This actually seems like a really cool fit for me, because I actually like it. Not because that everyone else wants to do it. For me, I'm like, I like it because I shadowed. So took about 3 to 4 years as an ICU nurse to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I said to myself, since I'm so undecided, I don't want to continue taking acute care nurse practitioner. I took a stop. I basically put myself on, I stopped taking classes just to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I did a little bit of research and researched different programs. And for me, I knew I wanted to stay close to home, because when I graduated nursing school, my father was very sick. Very, very sick, and he ended up in the hospital as time progressed, and he was a little older, but he was still my dad, and I loved him. And right around the time when I transitioned from, acute care nurse practitioner to end up thinking about becoming a CRNA, he passed away. So there was a time where I was going through a lot of grieving and very, emotional, and I was having a lot of things that happen to anyone that when they lose a family member. And so around that time is when I stopped, of course, my program, as well as figuring out what I wanted to do in the future. So it took like a year break to figure things out. And at that time, I started to figure things out. And also my mom was very important to me. Like, she is my rock. And so I knew to myself that I couldn't leave New York, because my mom needed me, and I needed her. Because I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and so for me and my culture and my family life, family is important and it's very essential. So for me, I couldn't see myself leaving to another state or another country, but another state, for example, to go to CRNA school. However, when I spoke to my mom, she was super supportive, and she says, honey, if you want to do whatever you wanted to do and you wanted to continue to go to school, you do it, even if you have to leave me. So I did apply to multiple schools around the country, but more closer on the east side, East Coast, for example, and I applied to schools in New York. So then I applied, figured things out. So maybe that was about a year period where I was trying to figure things out, year and a half period where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, looking at different programs, going through my whole grieving process with, losing my father, who I loved very much. And then I decided, I'm going to go to CRNA school, and I'm going to apply and take 100% attention on becoming a CRNA. So, of course, looking at becoming a CRNA, looking at the different programs, every program is very different. And so I want to figure out, how does my resume compare, as well as what can I do to maximize, to have a strong resume, and looking at everything and make sure everything's up to date, and my essay and all that stuff, and interviewing skills and all those different things. So I did that, and it's so interesting that there was one point, it's so funny, my husband and I were together, and, I applied to CRNA school, and then things transitioned. I left my job. I went to travel the world for about 3 months, and then I came back. And, of course, I realized I was pregnant, which was exciting, and, of course, my husband was excited. And then I was like, oh, I got accepted to CRNA school. This is amazing. And so, of course, when I finished, I did my whole 3 months of traveling, went right back into the ICU, and I worked for about a couple of months, and I was pregnant, delivered my baby, and started CRNA school. Now, it was so interesting that, my story is a lot different than other stories. And of course, when I'm on Thrive CRNA, I want to teach you how to become a CRNA fast, what tips and tricks I've learned, as well as some easy steps of how to become a CRNA. And I have videos on that, so definitely check those out. But for me, my journey was a little bit different than others, So now adding that up. Now, another thing to continue, when I went to CRNA school, the programs were master's prepared programs. Now, there was a transition to doctoral degree, but my program was a master's prepared program, which I was excited about because I wanted to be a CRNA fast. I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to be one as soon as possible. So my program was about 2.5 years, and now looking at it now, while things are transitioned into being doctoral degrees, it's about 3.5 years. Learning that now, talking to a lot of students that I'm precepting at my hospital, current work job. So 2.5 years. Approximately for a CRNA school. So now looking at the numbers, how many years it took me to become a CRNA, which of course my journey is different than others. So 4.5 years of nursing school, 3 to 4 years in the ICU while taking my nurse practitioner classes. CRNA school was probably 2.5 years approximately. So approximately for me, it took me about 8 to 10 years, plus or minus, to become a CRNA. So for me, it took me a lot longer because remember, everything was different for me. I didn't know I wanted to become a CRNA. But if you're in a high school student and you want to become a CRNA, definitely comment below. I want to hear you and hear your path of what you're thinking of doing when you want to become a CRNA. So if you want to become a CRNA fast, less than 8 to 10 years, there's ways. And I definitely have videos on that and how to do that. But for me, it took me 8 to 10 years. Now, if you want to do it fast, it could be less than 8 years, depending on how you go about and maximizing your time to become a CRNA. Now, you must be thinking to yourself, another thing. Well, if it's 8 to 10 years, why don't I become 8, like speaking about 8 years, or 7 or 8 years, depending on the program, why don't I become a medical doctor? That is always an option. You can definitely do that. And I think that if you want to become an anesthesiologist, go for it. If you feel in your heart and soul that you want to become a doctor, go for it. But if you want to become a certified nurse anesthetist, that's always an option. And I'm always going to say, I love being a CRNA and I love my journey and I love my path in life. And I wouldn't change it for the world because you know what? It made me realize and maybe become who I am today, and I'm grateful for that. I don't look at it as a negative, I look at it as a positive. And yes, I've gained a lot of experience in the ICU, which I'm very thankful for. Being an acute care nurse practitioner degree gave me a lot of skill sets, a lot of information, a lot of education to allow me to be a strong CRNA student. So I definitely take that as a positive. And for you, your path might be different. So definitely tell me your path right now, what you're doing currently, and where are you at in your journey to becoming a CRNA? Now, thinking about a medical doctor. Now, thinking about it too, a lot, of course, depending on the program you're in, depending on what's going on in your life, it can take approximately, looking online, 14 years, approximately 12 to 14 years, depending on the programs. Remember, 4 years of becoming, getting your bachelor's degree. Maybe it's a year to 2 years, depending on what's going on, to take your MCATs and get yourself ready to get accepted into a medical school. Then medical school could be 4 years, depending on the program. As well as when you graduate, you have 1 year of internship, and then about 4 to 5 years, depending on the residency, to become an anesthesiologist. So it's plus or minus about 12 to 14 years to become an anesthesiologist. So CRNA, 8 to 10 years, maybe 8 years, or an anesthesiologist, maybe 12 years. So you are gaining 4 years of your life much faster to become a CRNA. But remember, if your journey is to be a doctor or whatever it is, you want to be an educator, clinical nurse specialist, you want to be a teacher, you want to do informatics, whatever it is, you go for it. But I'm just giving you the numbers so you can make a well-educated decision. And of course, these numbers that I'm giving you might change in the next year. Programs are always changing, and of course adding or minusing classes. There's always ways to expedite how to become a CRNA, a doctor, or whatever you want to be. So definitely do your own research, because I'm giving you my information, but at the end of the day, in order to make a truly good decision, you got to also do your research. Know what you're doing. Definitely shadowing an anesthesiologist, shadowing a CRNA, shadowing a nurse practitioner, shadowing whatever area you want to go into. Make sure you shadow, because it is going to be a long program depending on what you decide on. 8 years of your life, to become an advanced practice nurse. Well, actually, it could be shorter if you become a nurse practitioner. It could be 4 years of bachelor's. Some programs don't even need a year of experience. Just go right into becoming a nurse practitioner school. And then it could be 2.5, maybe 3.5 years, depending on if it's a master's versus a doctoral program. So that could be like 6 to 8 years to become a nurse practitioner, depending on the program. So definitely keep those things into your mind. Definitely I recommend having a vision board, as well as writing down pros and cons to every decision that you are thinking of doing in your future. I always recommend make these decisions for yourself, make these decisions depending on your family work-life balance. But remember, no matter the situation, no matter the journey that you're going to have, you got to make this decision for yourself as well as with your family, because family is everything. You need that support system. If I didn't have my husband and my mom and his family to help me decide on my journey and help me and support me mentally to decide on becoming a CRNA and being in school, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So you definitely have to give it up to your family, and because they are going to be there to support you throughout the program. As well as maybe you don't have family, your friends, which are important. And of course, I'm here for you, and I'm here to motivate you, I'm here to inspire you, and I'm here to help you thrive. So if you don't have that, I'm here for you. And definitely comment below what's your family work-life balance. So definitely think about those things when you're thinking about becoming a CRNA or whatever you want to become in the medical field. So if you want to learn more about CRNAs and how to grow your CRNA career, definitely click one of these videos over here. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.